It's 2025, and it's time for a change. Or is it? We're going to be talking about all that and more, but first, coffee. Today's beans are from Vietnam. It says Vietnam Nguyen Hai Phuong. If you know how to pronounce that correctly, do let me know. We're going to be turning it into a tasty espresso today, but the topic right now is 2025. It's a brand new year and a perfect chance to start all over again and change everything. But in my case, with this channel, I'm actually thinking of going the opposite direction. Got my easy presso grinder here, 4.5, 4.6. Let's try 4.8. What I want to discuss first is how it's been quite a long journey on this channel. It used to be a channel about learning Japanese. It was not a channel about fighting games. It wasn't really supposed to be a channel about reviewing stuff. And I was going to just find out which were the best video games for learning Japanese. I was going to kind of review them. Oh no, there's a penis. That's not really how the channel took off. The channel took off because I did a product review, and the main one was the PS Vita TV, which eventually became known as the PlayStation TV. Put the handle on. Let's grind! And even this particular series that we're making here right now, the While I'm Making Coffee series, that was not something I had initially ever planned to do. It was, I'd like to teach people what games are good for learning Japanese, turned into product reviews, turned into fighting games, arcade sticks, Nintendo 3DS, just random vlogs running around the country, and then eventually just sitting down with a cup of coffee and chatting about random stuff. Sometimes video game related, but often completely unrelated to video games. With a lot of the channels that I watch, the content is very different. The content that you watch on YouTube heavily influences the content that you end up making on YouTube if you become a creator. But that's not always the best strategy. A lot of people find that the topic needs to be really strong, and so they focus on videos that only talk about a single topic. But when I started on YouTube, it was very much more about the you part of the tube. It's kind of the opposite now, with shorts content being very prevalent and being pushed super hard by Google. It feels like the creator who made the video is not really as important as the content itself. It's just like, this machine needs content and it needs it to be pumped out in huge volumes. It doesn't even matter if you remember the name. Like, can you remember the name of the person who made the last short that you watched? People just have to find the most outlandish, most insane, sometimes most creative ideas to stand out on the Shorts platform. And what they really want is those views. They want to see the numbers going up. Before I really became a creator on YouTube, I was mostly thinking of it as just this random place where people would just put stuff about themselves. It was very much YouTube, me tube. It was a person tube. It was a tube where you could watch random people's lives. That's not the sort of content that you could get on regular terrestrial TV. But I feel like the platform has changed dramatically. It's not gone, but it's just like the focus is different. It's definitely evolving and it's continuously changing. And that's also a very valuable thing. And for a little while, I really thought I had to be a very specific kind of thing in order for my channel to keep going, for me to justify the time that I spend outside of my day job making videos. And I'll go into detail about what I mean, but I have forgotten to make this coffee. So let's get these beans out here. Put my funnel on the portafilter. I always feel like I've become some kind of maniac when I'm dusting with like a makeup brush tiny pellets of coffee, grain by grain, into here. Give it a stir with this, I believe it's called a distribution tool. I'm going to stand up and give this a good temp. That's the state of the puck there. Let's hope it tastes good. Okay, so that actually went horrifically wrong. This is wrong. Okay, that is looking significantly better than before. Okay, that's actually perfect. It looks beautiful. Can't believe I got the grind size wrong. Let's give it a little stir. Yes! It tastes like there is caramel in my mouth. It's such a good excuse to just make a nice coffee. For me, the process of making this coffee is like an integral part of doing the chat. Like my thoughts are easier to process in my mind if I'm like grinding the beans and pouring the coffee and drinking the caffeine. Like all of it is kind of part of the process, and it's one of my favorite series that I've ever had on this channel. But it's always been the content that has been kind of the most unusual, as in I do it really often, but it's not really on theme with the other stuff in the channel. I really thought that my channel had to be something specific. I had to turn it into something for it to kind of survive and do well. Obviously, if you go to my channel and you click on every video one by one, then you can see them all. But in general, the first thing that happens when you open up the app is it shows you the home feed, and then you're just fed all sorts of information, ads, videos, trending stuff that is, popular right now, or just generally stuff that Google and YouTube, Alphabet, whatever, stuff that they specifically want to push to your eyes. I benefited from this process because the algorithm chose me. The algorithm chose my channel to show to various people. Even though I covered a very wide number of topics, a wide area of interest, it still pushed my content out there and people still watched. They didn't say like, what is this video? This is so random. This is completely unrelated to the stuff you made before. Google would just make sure that the people who would be interested in that content saw the content. But for a little while, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it felt like if I didn't make a single kind of content, then all the stuff like coffee videos or just, I don't know, walking around town and vlogging, like just random stuff that I would do would kind of cause the algorithm to get confused. I think what changed that was important for me in 2024 is a video that was going around on YouTube by, I can't remember the name of the guy, Jack Conti. I think he's the creator of Patreon. There was an essay blog post which is very, very famous now, where people were saying like, find your 1,000 fans. I don't know if that's really an accurate number, but there is a lot of research into the number of friends that a person can have. Like, you can only really manage 5 close friends. You can only really manage a village of up to 50 to 100 people. After that, it becomes like a different thing. Just the human brain just categorizes. And so for a creator in the modern day, it feels like finding your 1,000 people who are truly into you and will follow you anywhere. Even if you have like 5 million subscribers, there's probably 1,000 of them who will follow you anywhere. So a couple of years ago, I actually split up my channel into 4 different channels. I've always had 2 channels. One was the vlog channel, but then I just stopped using it for a while. But then I decided, since I'm going to be not streaming that often, especially as I had a newborn child, I was like, I don't really have time to be streaming as regularly as I did. I streamed like 4 times a week, like 2 times, 3 times on Twitch and 1 time on YouTube. I streamed 4 times a week. It was crazy, but back in 2020, we had a lot more time for things like that. Around 2021, I decided I'm going to focus on video content and I'm going to make my channel more like a TV channel. More like one of these established channels on YouTube which focuses on a very specific topic. But what's difficult about that is as soon as I knuckle down and I focus on a single thing, I instantly get, I don't want to say bored, but I instantly start looking out the window and wondering what else is out there. This is why I'm fairly convinced that I don't want to be a composer anymore. For the longest time, I was studying music, and I really felt like this is it. If I could become a video game composer, I would be happy. And then after that, like right after I finished 6 years of music study, I went on to like study how to draw. I was like, if I could be a mangaka, then I could be happy. And then after that, the story was, if I could only live in Japan, then I would be happy. And it's just constantly looking at the grass on the other side, looking at other careers, looking at other countries, looking at other hobbies, and always thinking like, if only I could do that thing, then I could be happy. And I don't want to reject that part of myself anymore. It's more important to accept that this is just who I am and stop thinking that one of these things is actually the thing. Video game controllers, video game consoles, streaming fighting games, going around and vlogging in Japan. What I found that I needed to accept is that I am a generalist, and I really dislike the word a generalist because it has this negative connotation. A person who is not very good at any particular thing. That just sounds terrible. But that is the strength. The strength of being a generalist is being interested and open to a huge, wide range of things. And for the longest time, I thought YouTube doesn't want that. But I don't think it's true. I see lots of channels and I've seen lots of creators. Maybe none of them are as prevalent on YouTube anymore, but I think there is still a way for that type of content to exist on YouTube. And even if YouTube isn't pushing it really hard, I think that I could make that my niche. Like instead of the niche being a single type of content, so video game controllers, the niche could be being a generalist, because actually that's not as common on YouTube anymore. It feels like a large number of people who were generalists. I mean, I guess the biggest biggest generalist of all time, in my opinion, was like PewDiePie. Like he touched every type of content that you could make, and he still does. And he shows up and makes a video. He's just like, I'm going for a walk today, and he'll still get like 1 million views because he's so popular and so well known. But that type of content that PewDiePie was making, that's not a big thing on YouTube anymore. And there is so much chatter in the world of content creation where it's just like, you got to follow the algorithm. You got to follow what the platform is doing. You've got to just do what is the trending thing. And that's really important. If you want to survive on a platform, you can't just ignore what's popular on the platform. But at the same time, I think you do need to be true to yourself. And I'm not saying that I'm going to try and push a type of content that doesn't work here. I'm not going to try and be random on purpose and make like, this channel is completely random. You never know what's coming next. That could be a form of branding. But what I'm really trying to say is that I want to be truer to myself in 2025. I want to stop trying to be me and just be me, focusing on what my 1,000 fans want. Hopefully it's more than 1,000 eventually, but even if it never is more than 1,000, at the moment, the number of subscribers on the channel is, I think it's 280,000. But not every video gets 240,000 views, right? So not every subscriber is interested in every video. And I've come to accept that. And I think that I make better content when I allow myself to make the content that I'm interested in at the time. The problem with the content that I was making for the past 2 or 3 years is that even though it is a topic that I'm interested in, I felt crushed into this little box. It's like, okay, I do find controllers interesting sometimes, but like if I wish I could make stuff that wasn't a video about a controller and also for it to be popular. And I was teaching the algorithm to think of me as a controller guy. And that is something that is a strength of the channel. And I think for most other creators, they'd probably take it and run with it. Like, okay, the algorithm thinks I'm the controller guy. I'll just make controller videos. But it doesn't work for me. Every time I change jobs, I'm like, okay, this is it. But within weeks, like within a few weeks, I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have to do this. And that's why, even though I love music so much, I haven't written like a note of music in years. Even though I studied it for 6 years. This is the thing I thought I would be doing every day for the rest of my life. And for years, I haven't done it, and it doesn't bother me at all. Well, it's not that it doesn't bother me at all. I would like to get back into it, but do you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't bother me daily. With my channel, I do feel like that about content. It's like, okay, I love controllers, and today I'm going to make a controller video. But then the next day, it's like, I'd quite like to make a video about puzzle games. The next day, I'd quite like to make a video where I drink a coffee and talk about content creation. Or the next day, I'd quite like to just jump in my car and go for a drive. That's what I want to be more true to. I'm so in love with this coffee. What is it again? So to put things in more concrete terms so you actually know what to expect for the rest of the year in 2025, I want to have some front runner series that are constant throughout the year. So while I'm making coffee, this is obviously a series that I love and is important to me. And it allows me to explore things that just kind of get bottled up in my head. And I'm just like, all right, I need to get it out of my head and into a video. And I want to hear other people's opinions about it. But as you know, a few weeks ago, I posted a video about Rubik's Cubing. And it's not that I'm trying to turn into a Rubik's Cube channel, nothing like that. I do love Rubik's Cubes, but for me, like learning the process of getting into a hobby and feeling like it could be my end goal thing, like that's important, even though I know it's not my end goal thing. I'm glad that I spent the time to learn it because now I've got it. I've got the skill and I know where to go if I want to continue with it. It's the same with fighting games. I've got the skill for playing fighting games. And if I want to push myself to like master rank and all of the other stuff that comes after that, like winning tournaments, I know which direction I would need to go. But for me, I'm usually like, I want to do 20% of the work and get 80% of the results. Because for most hobbies, you can. If you want to get 100% of the results, you need to put 100% of the effort in. So it's just like an extra 80% over the 20% you've already done in order to get like a 20% gain. For me, I'm quite satisfied with doing 20% of the work, getting 80% of the results, and then kind of just moving on to the next thing. It's crazy, but because it doesn't actually bother me. I don't look at a lot of the old hobbies and go, oh, it's such a shame that I never completely mastered that, because I've seen the masters out there and I've seen what it takes. I've seen how it consumes them their entire life. And it doesn't bother them, but I look at them and I go, I couldn't do it. That couldn't be me. If I spent 100% of my time completely focused on this one specific art, it would just bug me more that I was like missing out on spending time on a huge range of other things. It's amazing the people who can do it, but it's not for me. So not focusing on speed cubing like in the long term on the channel, but making challenge videos is going to be like front runner content for this channel. So making coffee and talking, that's going to be a big part of the channel. And also challenge videos where I learned how to do yo-yo tricks, how I get further and further into Rubik's Cubing. Challenge videos like getting better at art, getting better at playing the guitar. A lot of these things that I've wanted to go and push a little bit further, but haven't had time to. I want that to be the content that I make because I can also be creative with it. With controller reviews, I am really glad that a lot of people see the channel as like an important source for controller reviews, but there is a limit to how creative you can be with it. No, it's not that there's a limit to how creative you can be, but there's a limit to how creative I can be with it. Like I could be really entertaining and really creative with controller reviews, but to me, they would still be controller reviews. I would prefer to move into these other avenues where I could be creative, where I'm like visual storytelling or just chatting with you or doing specific challenges and learning skills. There's so many other areas that I'd like to try out, and I feel pigeonholed. Even though you can push it much further with a single type of content, I prefer to branch out to a wider variety of content and also push far in all of those directions. So while I'm making coffee, challenge videos of various skills and hobbies, and I want to get back into, I don't want to say vlogging, but kind of vlogging. I feel like I was scared of doing vlogs because of two main reasons. And I've spoken about this on stream sometimes, but the first reason is that I discovered that when vlogging was a big thing, obviously the Casey Neistat era, everyone wanted to be a vlogger. Like that's the type of content that YouTube was pushing at the time. And I could see that I didn't want to go down that road because a large number of vloggers that I would watch, after they stopped vlogging or they decided to like sit in their houses and like review products, I was like, oh, I actually don't really find you very interesting. I only found you interesting because I wanted to see what comes next. And that's not a bad thing. Actually, that's also a valuable type of content. But for me, what I liked about vlogging was, personally, I get to actually go outside and travel, go driving places, go skating places, just showcase cool things that I found in Japan. That's something I would like to do again without becoming a vlogger, because I will still be making challenge videos and I will still be making coffee videos. So it's not like I'm a vlogging channel and if I ever do anything that's not a vlog, that's just not interesting. Vlogs will be another type of frontrunner content on the channel. And then, of course, controller reviews, because like it or not, I am addicted to playing fighting games, and it's going to be impossible for me to like rip that out of the channel, and I don't want to rip that out of the channel. Plus, lots of random videos in between, because I love the freedom of being able to do something random, which, in my opinion, is something that's a little bit more difficult for a niche channel. For me, I think having 4 types of frontrunner content and then allowing myself to branch into these random videos in between as well. I want to go back to doing that, and not just for myself, but for my core fans, for my core 1,000 fans. Something that's interesting on X, on Twitter, is that I don't post the links to the YouTube videos, and a lot of people will sometimes comment underneath as a reply. They'll be like, "Where's the link to the video? Why wouldn't you link to the video?" I'm like, if you're subscribed to my channel and you're a core fan, then you know where to find this video. You don't need the link. And I understand why they say it, and it's very different. The strategy I'm using is very different. But on X, I think once you put a YouTube link in the post, just fewer people will see it. X is like, okay, this is a link that's going to send people away from Twitter, so we're going to like push it down and remove the engagements from it. But for me, Twitter X posts are my way of just letting my fans know, hey, the YouTube channel was updated today. If you want to see my new video, go and check it out. Whew. I highly recommend this coffee from Vietnam. If I see the word Vietnam written on coffee, I'll definitely be trying it again, because I'd like to see what else comes from the country. Oh, wow. That's tasty. That very last bit of espresso tasted like, I don't know, it could have been like solidified into a ball. I could have eaten it like a Werther's original. Anyway, I'm really excited about 2025, because it's going to be a massive change, but at the same time, a bit like a return. And I feel like that's going to be really comforting, but at the same time, reinvigorating. How is your 2025 going to pan out? Is it going to be just like 2024? Has everything been going perfectly, swimmingly well for you? Or is it time for some big changes? Let me know in the comments section. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks for being a core fan of NihongoGamer. I'm really excited about another year of awesome content and just branching back out into all the things that I've always loved doing. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love the rest of the While I'm Making Coffee series. Check out this video right here. That's all for now. I've been NihongoGamer. I'll see you real soon.